Every farm has a story. When it comes to dairy farming, these stories are often only heard by the animals raised, the land stewarded, and the family that makes it all possible. Join me, Dairy Gal Val, as I interview individuals from across the dairy industry, both within the United States and across the globe, discussing topics like farm management, the food industry, ag business and technology, and most importantly, their farm story. This is the Dairy Hour Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour Podcast. I am joined by a special guest today. Let's see if I can say this right. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. Wilko Brouwer de Koning, right?
Yeah, very good. Very
Pretty
good, Val.
close,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Good. So Wilco is from the Netherlands, which is obviously a very big powerhouse of dairy around the world. And I'm so excited to have him on. He's another one of the really great young farmers that I was honored to meet while I was at the World Dairy Summit in Chicago this past October. So, Wilco, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you. Here in Holland, it's the first days of dry weather in, I think, 3 months of rain. So it's freezing now only a little bit. It's only freezing 2 till 3 degrees. So that's for your country nothing, but for us, it's very cold.
So he's freezing over there in Holland. So I'm happy that you have at least a dry day because in upstate New York, I know all about the rain that just won't go away. We actually have sunshine today for the first time in a while, it seems as well. So I'm there with you, except I was just saying we've had a bunch of snow, which melted overnight and got lots of rain. So we're staying afloat over here. So let's get into this. Wilco, do you want to tell us a little bit about your dairy operation as it stands today?
Yeah, so I'm a third generation dairy farmer in Hilo. So that's the west part of Holland, close to the sea. And we milk 180 cows. The average in Holland it's around 105. So we are a little bit bigger than average, but I will do the farm together with my brother. I have a family. I'm married and I have 3 children, and they're all still in school.
Very good. I know all about the three children in school. That's the same as I have. So they outnumber you, which can be scary at sometimes. Do
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Do the kids have a lot to do with the farm, or are they just pretty busy with school?
They're just busy with school, and the oldest one is a son, and he's 18 years old, and he's doing the first year of international food business. So
Oh,
he's going to the international way. So that's the first 2 years in Holland, and then the third year in Canada in Nova Scotia. So he's totally going into the agri-business first, international agri-business, and I think that's quite cool because I'm just 42 years old, so just go first see around the world what's happening everywhere, and then maybe after that, you can always become at home and be a farmer.
very good. That's always a good thing to go out and get that experience. Yeah, especially internationally is very cool to get that experience in agribusiness before going back to the farm because obviously you're not ready to retire yet at 42. So very good. Um, so you guys, like, how many times a day are you milking your cows?
Yeah, so we have 2 sheds with cows. One shed we milk with milking robot, and one shed we milk with milking piler. So the high productive cows are on the robot, and after around 100 days, they go from one shed to the other. And that's because our farm is in the middle of the forest. So if you look
Okay.
on the map, you see our buildings are in the middle of 12 hectares of forest. So that's what is it, 30 acres of forest. Around that there is 30 hectares of land, and around that there are 27,000 people living. So
Oh my gosh.
we are in the heart of the village. Um, so and in Holland, grazing is a big thing. So in Holland, more than 80% of the cows are working outside and have grazing. So that's also on our farm. And in summer we graze both sheds. With the low productive cows, we graze longer. So if you look at in Holland, we also sell grazing milk in the shops because it's quite a big issue with consumers. And in Holland, you have grazing milk when you graze your cows 120 days, 6 hours a day. So the high productive cows we graze for 120 days, 6 hours a day, and the others we graze from the first weeks of April to the last weeks of November most of the time. It depends on the weather, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're saying you're getting off of months of rain. So I can definitely see how weather would be a big issue as far as grazing goes. So are they just out roaming in the woods kind of thing? Or do they go to cleared spots where it's more just grassland?
No, it's only grassland. So the forest is only just for the villagers just to walk in. It's more like recreation. It's not for wood or anything. So that's just for uh, uh,
Like a park.
recreation, and
Yep.
something like that. Uh, the forest in the grass fields, yeah.
Okay. And what kind of challenges do you run into with being surrounded by village?
I think it starts that you want to have a good connection with your neighbors. I think that's all around the world. That's very important. So that's also on our farm. It's very important. So we have the Facebook, we have the Twitters. Oh, on this moment it's called X with Elon. Um, so we tell about what we do, and we have also a web shop, a website and a web shop. So and we try to sell directly also to consumers. So we sell eggs, some milk, deep frozen meat, and also cheese, which come from the dairy industry where we bring our milk to. So we don't produce our own cheese, but we just sell that cheese.
Yep.
Um, I think it's very important just to connect with your neighbors, and so that's one way. And the other way is every 2 years we have an open day. So every
Okay.
consumer in our village can come and see on our farm. And every 2 years we have an open day. And if we don't have the open day, people can come to see the cow dance. So the first day when the cows are going outside, and there are around 3,000 people
Oh my
coming
gosh.
to just see the cow dance. So when we put them the first time outside, they
Yep.
go to a piece of land of 2 hectares of land. And there are like 5 rows people around that just to walk to see the cows outside. So
Oh,
sometimes
that's great.
sometimes I'm saying that just the cows help to get the people outside because there are only 100 cows going outside on that moment, and there are
Yep.
like 3,000 people watching. So for every cow, there are like 30 people watching. So but it's kind of yeah, it's kind of a big happening, and it's very easy. And like we just say the time, and it's there's nothing easier and quicker than just to connect with your neighbors on that way.
Yeah, and just that little piece of happiness just spreads the cheer throughout the village, I'm sure. And that's really important, especially when they can associate your dairy farm with something so fun and positive. And it also gives them something to look forward to in the springtime. So that's really nice as well. So you said you're a third generation dairy farmer?
Yeah, so in Holland, it's not possible to just start your own farm. Um, if your father or your grandfather didn't have a farm, it's almost impossible because if you look at a farm with 100 cows, you need like 6 million euros, and a bank only will lend you one and a half. something
Yeah.
like that. So, so you can also only be a farmer when also your generation before you have a farm. Because the land is so expensive. So
Yep.
my grandfather started with something like 5 cows, and then we started on a rented farm, and then on this moment we have 2 locations, one with the young stock and one which we are milking cows. And on
Okay.
this moment we have 125 hectares of land, so that's like 300 acres,
Yep.
something like that.
Something like that. So are you limited as to what you can make for milk now? Or it's just, once you're started, you can basically make as much milk as you want? Or do you have limitations on your production as well?
We have limitations. I think Holland is the most limited land on the world. So we have a lot of limitations. So we have limitations of like a quota system on phosphate. So every cow you have a phosphate quota. That's
Okay.
one. But also we have like 4 different manure laws. So with ammonia, with your license to produce, but also how many manure you can put on your land, and that's also the biggest issue for the next years, because in Europe we have a manure law. You can put manure on your piece of land and fertilizer, um, but you cannot, and it's both limited. And
Hmm.
in the past, we say as Holland, as a dairy sector, um, we want to use less fertilizer,
Hmm.
close the loop, and use more our own manure. But on this moment, Brussels said you have to get rid of 1/3 of your manure on your land. So the level of manure on our land is going down by 1/3 around, and then we can use more fertilizer. So it's totally the way around if you look at climate.
Yep.
But yeah, in Europe, hey, we are in Holland, but in Europe, also Brussels is saying a lot of things about a lot of laws in the different countries. And
Yeah.
because in Holland we have a lot of animals on a small space,
Hmm.
we are a little bit of the the bad boy in class, like that. So and that's really a big issue, because in Holland we have 1.6 million cows, and we
Okay.
produce 14 billion kilograms of milk in Holland. And in the next 2 years, we have to get rid of 300,000 cows, the amount of manure. And there's no solution on this moment,
Yeah.
how we are going to do that. So that's really a big issue on this moment in Holland.
Yeah, I've seen some of the news articles and heard chatter about all of the just craziness that's happening over there. And it is really tricky when you're so limited as to what you can do and how restricted you are as to what you can do for your land and what you can't do for your land. And yeah, just figuring out a solution for what to do with that cow manure instead of being able to use it yourself, having to basically find different ways to dispose of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest issues is, and I think that's a big difference between like America and or the United States and Europe. We have the innovation, right?
Yep.
I think we have more innovations in Holland which we can use on our farm than you already have in America. Only it won't fit in the law.
Yep.
So we have the innovations, but we cannot use them. So we
Yeah.
want to make our own fertilizer from manure, but it's not allowed. And there's a big issue and a big discussion also with Brussels.
Yeah, it's crazy that there's just so many restrictions and so many limitations. So for those of you trying to figure out as far as the size of the Netherlands compared to something in the United States, it's larger than our state of Maryland, which is a very small state, but smaller than West Virginia. So it's really, to have that many cows and that many people in such a small space is really it's mind-boggling to think of, especially when, you know, the majority of those cows are, you know, have access to pasture and grazing and things like that. So it really kind of, that comparison shows how cramped you guys are in that small space.
Yeah, and because of that small space, I think Holland is in the front row what's happening in future in the rest of the world. So, of course, we are also watching how we can reduce CO2
Yep.
or our carbon footprint, but we have to do it together with getting less ammonia, have our loop closed for phosphate and nitrogen, work about biodiversity, do the grazing, and do it all together. So we have that's the difficult on our farms. We have to work on a lot of different themes, and we cannot focus on just one.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to keep your eyes open and be moving forward in all senses at the same time. You can't just strongly focus on one thing and let something else slide. It seems like you really have to be on your toes, which is definitely coming in the dairy industry in as a whole across the world, but it seems like the pressure is really on for you guys over in Holland. You definitely have quite a spotlight on you as far as the world dairy industry is concerned. But I guess the silver linings in that is that, you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and hopefully figuring out some of those things, and then the rest of the world can follow and we can keep decreasing the carbon footprint around the world would be excellent.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that I think the loop of carbon is one issue. So that's one item we have to work on, and I think the other one for the dairy sector around the world is nitrogen and phosphate. Um, so in Holland, like 80% of our fields are filled with grass. Yeah, what's for a dairy industry. So we have 2 million hectares of land in total in Holland, and 1 hectares of land of grass. So the half of the land is grassland, and I think grassland, it will help with carbon into the soil, but also with a lot of biodiversity. So if you look at the future of dairy farmer, grassland is it will help us on all the different subjects.
yeah,
And
definitely. It helps close the loop and make things renewable, and putting nutrients back into the ground is definitely a lot easier when it comes to that diverse grassland and being able to absorb nutrients. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about, you know, obviously the farm was generational. You know, how did the transition go? Like, did you just know right off the bat that you were going to go back to the dairy farm with your brother? How about did that come up? You know, how did that happen?
um, yeah, okay. So you live your whole life, mostly the whole life on a farm. I lived for 10 years on another farm and in the village. Um, yeah, um, beside I'm a dairy farmer, I'm also a board member of the Dutch Farmers Organization. So for me, it's very important to see the world, to see what's happening around us, and help the sector become a step forward, and in combination with being a farmer. And I think because our farm is in the middle of the village, we also always had an open mind to the world around us, and I think that's always a line in my life that I want to be a dairy farmer, but not only a dairy farmer. So work together, do it together, see also around the world. Um, See what's happening on other places, but also talk with politicians and ministers and what's happening on a dairy farm, and tell them and let them know what we need for a future farmer. So if you look at the past, I think I always want to become a dairy farmer. So that's not one moment that I choose or whatever. You just grow in, most of the times. Um, but not only a dairy farmer. Just see more of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I have very similar views as far as to be a dairy farmer in 20, well, now we're in 2024. You definitely have to be more than a dairy farmer. It's so important to make sure that those government officials understand dairy farming and understand the different benefits and things that dairy farming brings to the community and the world in general. And just making sure, as there's fewer and fewer of us, making sure that our voices are heard, and that they're strong and that they're out there. That is so important, especially for the future of our industry. So I definitely very much agree with that. Is your is the previous generation still involved in the farm at all, or are they pretty much retired?
Yeah, my father is retired, but he will help us 4 days a week, and when it's very busy, and because I'm also a board member, so I'm away from the farm for 3 days. So we also have some labor to help to milk the cows most of the evenings and help with the work on the farm. Um, like I told before, in Holland it's mostly family farms, so that's yeah, in America, I know in America you have all different kind of sizes, but in Holland the average is 105, and the biggest farms are not very much bigger than 400 cows, something like that. So
Yeah.
in Holland it's mostly family farms. So we have a family farm with some labor extra.
Yep. Yeah, in the United States, it's right around 98% of the farms are family owned. But obviously we have the land base and the scales to be able to go much bigger, still be a family owned operation, but we just outsource. Obviously, we need a little bit more help than just the family. Otherwise, you'd really have to have a big family, but hey, it's not out of the question. So that's really fascinating. And it is neat to see the difference just in the land base versus the farm sizes and things like that. Doing my research a little bit earlier, I think it said that there was maybe about 14,000 dairy farms in Holland. Does that sound
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and every year 3% will quit their farm, around something like that.
Yeah, it's
3% of the farmers, yeah.
it's very alarming at the rate that people are retiring from the dairy industry. So definitely something that we as an industry need to keep close tabs on, because it'll it'll go fast at that rate, which is very unfortunate. So I guess at this point, I like to just ask a couple fun random questions and just to get
Okay.
to know you a little bit more. And I know you said you have done a little bit of traveling around the world with your board positions and things like that. So where is your favorite spot that you have visited so far?
My favorite spot, we've met in Chicago last year, but the
Yes.
year before it was the conference was in India, and I think
Ooh.
that was quite a nice experience, because India, hey, we know that India is the biggest country that produce milk, um, but they want to on this moment the import and export is around something equal. But they want to go work to 100 billion kilograms of milk exporting in 20 years or something. So it's that kind of totally different world. And also because of the cow is holy,
Yep.
it's just other way of working. But it was, I think that was very amazing what's happening over there. Yeah, and how to work with cows when they are holy, and you're allowed to milk them but not slaughter them. And what do you do with the bulls and everything? Yeah, it's that's totally.
That would be really fascinating. I didn't get to go to that, unfortunately, but I can definitely see how that would be a really fun trip. We've had someone on the podcast before who actually lived in India for a few years, and she said it was a very fascinating experience, and that the people there are so kind and the culture is just so something that we're not used to, which is really it's exciting and it's fun.
Yeah,
It very well.
so what
Go
one
ahead.
of the things we've seen, that there was a farmer and he was selling cow urine
Oh,
because it had healing power.
Oh,
And because of the cow was holy, it had healing power. So that he was selling milk, but also cow urine, and it was. Then you think like with some taste and everything, it was totally crazy over there. It's totally different world then.
yeah, definitely. I don't know. I should be completely unbreakable the amount of times, that I've managed to get cow urine on myself. So I guess I should be pretty untouchable at this point.
Yeah.
In, as far as India is concerned, apparently that's how that goes. What place in the world have you not been to yet that you would love to visit? Whether it be
China.
for dairy or for just fun.
I think China, because that's also a totally different world and what's happening there, and and just build mega farms. But how do you? They don't have the feed, so they buy the feed and they have just the manure lagoons and everything. So it's totally not fitable in closing loops. The thought of closing loops.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very growing market over there also. So and it will China is becoming more effective or affect us in the next 10, 20 years
Yeah,
as a culture.
they're definitely doing some big things over there that are interesting to kind of keep an eye on. Um, let's see, your favorite dairy product.
Oh, that's just the cheese. Our milk is going in the Gouda cheese, but it's the north part of Holland cheese. So we have our cheese can only you can only made it in our part of Holland in a factory what's only here with only dairy cows from this part of Holland, and it has this special taste because of the salt sea air. So that's
Ah,
the thinking of the past. Yeah.
very cool. So say that, what's it called again?
Yeah, it's the Gouda cheese. So you know the
Oh,
Gouda cheese. Yeah, the Gouda. Yeah, you
oh,
know it.
Gouda.
It's
Okay.
from that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's from Holland. But this is special Gouda. It's and you can only make it
Special.
on this piece. Yeah, special Gouda. Yeah.
Ah, okay. See, so in the United States with our United States accents, we more call it Gouda.
Okay.
So that's where at
Yeah,
first I wasn't sure what
but
cheese you were talking about.
but your Gouda is totally different taste than the real Gouda from Holland.
Then the real stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. And I guess let's see. One more. What's your favorite comfort food?
Favorite comfort food? Oh, that's a good question. I think just fish and chips,
Fish and
something like
chips.
that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best. Yeah.
Just straightforward fish and chips.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Well, Wilco, I know that you need to go and get your cows milked. So that is important to make sure that we have you out of here on time. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I know it gets a little tricky trying to schedule times across the ocean and all that fun stuff. So I very much appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Dairy Hour podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and leave a review. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dairy Gal Val or online at dairygalval.com. Thank you so much for coming to the Dairy Hour.